And now, Danielle, let's see, we've got.
Yeah. So I am going to add my colleague, Lauren Rother. This is one of our sponsored talks for today. So Lauren comes to us. I'm going to add you in, Lauren.
Do we have a little wardrobe change?
Well,
I
hello.
Okay.
Twinsies.
And it wouldn't be a virtual event if you didn't momentarily maybe hear dogs barking. But, Lauren, I feel like that's a good segue for we like animals, we like pets.
Oh, I was like, dogs barking. Wow.
Yeah.
Bodes well for this talk.
They got the memo.
Yeah, they stayed quiet, actually. So Lauren is here to talk to us about infrastructure from code. So we obviously all know, infrastructure as code and Terraform and all that. But we want to introduce you to the concept of infrastructure from code. So I am going to add your slides, Lauren. Here we go.
Amazing.
And then we are going to jump out.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Hey, I'm going to give you a quick demo of how appCD gets you streamlined, standardized deployments aligned to the needs of all your teams. Sounds fun, doesn't it? Without requiring you to fiddle with configuration code or learn a new language. Who doesn't love not having to learn a new thing while you're trying to get your work done? And spoilers, it's infrastructure from code. But first, Danielle mentioned who I am. Lauren Rother, I'm the VP of product here at appCD. I previously worked at Akita Software and spent some time at HashiCorp working on Terraform. So if you love it or hate it, let me know in the comments later. So we all know infrastructure as code is great. It's a fantastic way to really automate infrastructure provisioning, especially when you hit scale. But like any great innovation, it has some drawbacks. Some of those are things like you have to learn a specific infrastructure as code tool, which often means picking up a new language like we talked about, or if you are picking up a new language, switching from an imperative language to declarative ones, especially hard for the dev teams among us, I have found. There's also a lot of different tools, and they're all unique. They're really opinionated. They have their own strengths and weaknesses, and you can combine them, but then you have to make them work together. And even when you find the perfect tool for you, you still have to know how to architect cloud infrastructure, and that is an entire skill set in and of itself, as probably many of you know. So it isn't easy for just any person on any team to pick that up. And keeping going, like any good process, it can be really hard to collaborate on, especially when you have a lot of different teams who are managing different microservices or components, and they're all contributing to the same app, and they're all trying to make config changes to their part of that app that then impact the other teams, and then we're all stuck in Git blame, and no one loves that. Not great. And then speaking, and all of that happens, by the way, before we even get to managing the longer term impacts of the changes outside infrastructure as code. So things like remediation in your cloud console during an incident, which you then have to find out about and integrate into your config. And if you're super lucky, you were the one who made that change, so you knew about it in the first place, or someone told you. And if you're not lucky, you accidentally revert the change. And well, we've all been there, haven't we, on some way or another, or heard someone who's been there. Speaking of incidents, it's really easy to make small changes to your application and not remember to update your config to revoke access to something that's not needed anymore. And now there's an overly permissioned infrastructure floating around in production, just waiting for an exploit. Also not great, IAC, not great at all. And then finally, continuing in the theme of working with people is really hard sometimes, even though people are really great. Making sure that every interested team is satisfied with the infrastructure that you're building can take a lot of time and a lot of reviews and a lot of meetings. And all of that sounds like a bummer, but I have good news. It's possible to overcome at least some of these challenges with infrastructure from code. Infrastructure from code uses your application's source code to determine what infrastructure is needed for your application to run efficiently and securely with least privilege access. Sounds nice. With infrastructure from code, you get streamlined application deployments that allow developers a better, more productive experience without becoming infrastructure experts. Instead, the experts, that's you, set the rules and the guidelines, and the infrastructure as code is generated to fit those guidelines. This speeds up time to market and eliminates silos. You also get deployments that are standardized by default, giving you consistency thanks to the security and policy guardrails. Oh, helps if I click forward. It's giving you the security and policy guardrails being built into the deployment by default. No more scans and reviews after the fact and all of that revision that comes with those. And then you get the application deployments that are context aware of the application itself. So it's guaranteed to be right-sized with dependencies, resiliency, reliability, security, I could name more ilities, automatically built in. And that saves your company resources and removes the potential for human errors, which that's nice, we're all human. So how do we do this? Through a process of analyzing your code, visualizing your infrastructure, and then generating your infrastructure as code. So first, we analyze your Python or Java right now source code to understand what infrastructure is required by your app. Then we show a visual topology of the proposed infrastructure architecture, allowing you to customize with drag and drop resources. And finally, we generate your infrastructure as code with all of the policies, golden standards, and other guidelines already in place. All of this sounds great, right? But you probably want to see what I'm actually talking about. So I hope that this works. We'll find out. We're doing it live. No, hold on. I get to share a different screen.
We're coming back in to help you. And let's see.
Oh yeah, I'm just hitting share screen because, you know, my brilliant plan was to do this live. So
We are praying to the demo goddesses for you because often it's always interesting with live demos. But let's try it.
Oh yeah,
here we go.
We're good.
To the stage.
Amazing. I mean,
Yay. Okay.
Who doesn't love a live demo? So you got to watch me log out. You know that works in our product. What I'm going to do is walk you through what appCD does from the perspective of a developer who is working on something and wants to get it up in a staging environment to see how it's going. So I'm going to log in with GitHub because that's where all of my code lives right now. And I'm going to double check all the repositories I need live in this repository. Yep, they're here. Surprise. We're doing a demo. Because we're doing a live demo, I have a pre-baked version all ready to go. We're going to pretend like that's not there right now. I'm going to create a brand new app stack, and I do it from source. So what that means is I'm going to connect the repository where my code lives, and I'm going to choose the branch that I'm working out of because I don't like to commit all the stuff that's in progress to main and get a bunch of comments on it before it's ready. I could also, if I wanted, use a git tag or a commit SHA. So however you like spacing out your work, you can connect it up in whatever way works for you. I'm also going to pick the language that I'm using, in this case, Java, and then I'm going to move forward. I'm going to choose the cloud that I want to deploy in this case, AWS EKS, but you see we also support ECS and Azure AKS. Fun times. And here, I'm not going to mess with these because I'm excited that all of these policies will be automatically applied to my IAC. Great, I trust it. And I'm going to name our app stack. If I wanted to give it a description, I could. I can even add a tag if I want. Fun. And here is a really fun summary page that lets me know, did I pick the right repo or all the repos that I want there? What cloud service did I pick? What infrastructure as code am I going to get at the end of this? And oh, look, how many policies are there? 110. That's exciting. And all of these are going to be applied and generated in the infrastructure as code without me having to worry about it at all. So I'm going to go ahead and create my app stack. And you'll see here a new app stack was added and my code is being statically scanned from the code base. But so that we don't have to wait for that to keep going while we're all live, we're going to look at this one. So this is what shows up. This is what I built. I'm going to move it down a little bit because I'm on a tiny screen. This is the infrastructure stack that I would get built. Because we live in the real world and not my ideal world yet, we're not going to be able to find every piece of information. So I see that I have an error here where I have to fill something in. And I'm going to do that here. Oh, hey, I need to figure out an alias for my KMS. The nice thing about this for me as someone who's written a lot of Terraform is that I often have to, when I don't quite know what I need to put in for something that I'm configuring, I have to copy and paste whole chunks of Terraform code. This lets me ask, hey, what alias should I be using for KMS in Slack? And that makes me feel smart. And I like feeling smart at work. But here, I'm good to go. I went ahead and saved it. I have no errors. And now I can go ahead and export my IAC. I can also look at it. Here are all of the files that I get, all of the modules that I get, everything that I need, the Helm chart, everything I need to get my application up and deployed. I export it and I just put it in my deployment pipeline and I'm good to go. And then I have one tiny more slide for you with information about appCD if you want to give us a try, because yeah.
Oh, wait, we need to slide up.
Yep, she's going to share it again.
Okay.
While you're working on sharing it, there was a question, Lauren, from Chris P. He says, how's the Terraform maintained for day 2? So, there's consistency for day 1, but how do you do fleet management approach evergreen across lots of instances of deployed products?
Yeah, I think this is a really great question. So I think there's kind of 2 answers to that. One is that as your applications grow and change day 2 and beyond, we automatically will pull those versions. The version of your app stack tracks with the version of your application. So the version of your Terraform is also directly linked to that. Now, if you're looking at a much wider environment, you're probably going to have multiple stacks that are interconnected. And that is a much longer answer that if you want to talk about at some point, let me know. We can do that.
We have that lovely email, info@appcd.com.
Indeed.
And then
I read it.
Then there's another question. Roadmap for polyglot project, Node.js, Python, Golang, runtimes.
Is that Sachin? Is that our CEO secretly in the chat? Good news. Yes, some of those are in our very short-term roadmap, and I think some of them are longer. If there is a language that you want to see, definitely email us, because I think, especially like any startup, the more that we hear from people who are interested in using us, like what languages they are using and want to use, the higher priority those languages become. Otherwise, it's just me looking up reports on what top languages are. So if there's something you're interested in, let me know.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, and just to add to that, so Python is supported today alongside Java, and this lovely little slide, Lauren, that you shared has a playground that you can use, a dev edition. It's all free to use, so try it.
Yeah.
Let Lauren know how it will be. And then I'm going to duck out, or have you duck out. But there is another question or questions coming in, Lauren. If you could just hang out and answer those questions from Charles and Jim, that would be great.
In the chat.
Will do.
Chat.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
We're going to keep the conference moving. Thank you so much, Lauren. It was awesome to have you. Great to see you. All right.